This video is about the cQ-Waddah Attar explosion indicator. Add it to the chart. The indicator is used to indicate if there's enough volume to get into a trade. The way this one works is when the up histogram bars or the down histogram bars cross the no trade zone levels and the static level line, it will print it a brighter color. And that's an indication that there's enough volume behind the price action at the moment to get into a trade. This has the same, or uses the same algorithm used in the original, except this one, it just has a number of other things you can do. For example, it has around 30 moving averages, so you can change the moving average, or you can put it in a mode where you can change the various moving averages to something different. So you can have a fast moving average for the MACD will be different than the slow moving average for the MACD. And it has this called a Tandem mode, which allows you to set the period at a particular ratio, and it will maintain that ratio. It also has the ability to position the buttons up. I'm going to stick it here in this sub-window 1 just to make it easier to read. It has 4 different types of no trade zone level, these lines here, as well as the static level, which this dotted line here. It's based on the ATR. It just is a high period ATR setting. I think it's 100. It's right here, static level 100, and that's the multiplier currently, where it's currently set. This one also has the 10 local and global presets. It's very similar things that can be found in the baseline indicator. I'd like to describe the interface. I'll explain some of the settings in further detail later on in the video, but I'm just going to briefly go through what each of these lines mean. It's pretty simple, especially once you get the hang of it. It's not that big a deal. The first line is shows the fast MACD's moving average settings, period, and the current applied price. The next setting is the slow MACD's moving average setting and period. It also shows the fast and slow tandem ratio mode, which is this right here, as well as the static level right here, which is a 100 period ATR, and this is the current multiplier setting. Third line shows the no trade zone level. There are 4 algorithms that will be displayed here, and like this one right now is set at it's using 2-band ATR setting. You can see the 2 bands here, and it's being smoothed by an SMA 9 period moving average. The multiplier is set to 1, and this is part of the ATR setting, which I'll explain later, but that's what that line means. The next line, the 4th line, the first row of buttons, it's used by the fast MACD's moving average. This is the moving average select. This is the period. These will change the parameters of the moving average if there are any. These over here are the input smooth before it hits the MACD moving averages. You can smooth it if you want. This is the period, and this changes this right here. It's the basic moving averages, just in case you need to smooth some of the price if it's too volatile. This next setting, I'll have to explain later what that button does. The 5th line, this line here, so it's the same thing, except it's the slow MACD line. Again, the moving average, the period, the moving average parameters, These buttons here are the fast, slow, tandem ratio mode buttons. This button here is the no trade zone ATR 2-band algorithms flip switch, which again, I'll explain that later. The next line is used to control the no trade zone levels and no trade zone tandem ratio settings. Some of them don't use a moving average. Some of the no trade zone algorithms, the Bollinger Bands, for example, don't, but the ATR ones do, and that's what these will control that. This is the no trade zone tandem ratio mode control buttons. The next line, this is the applied price. You can change the applied price here. These buttons is where the static level can be changed. You can change the period here, or you can change the multiplier there, or you can disable it. The next buttons are where you change the no trade zones algorithm type, of which there's 4 algorithms to choose from. The next buttons, if I do this, you can see on certain algorithms, these buttons become available, and they're used to control the inverse functions used, for example, in this ATR 2-band. Again, I'll explain that later. And then the next line is, of course, the presets. You have 10. L means local. If there's a G there, it's global. These 2 buttons over here control the no trade zones level. Now, I guess I should show you the dialog box. This is just the refresh rate for calculating the indicator. If you're on the daily chart, 20 seconds is no big deal. You can go all the way down to 1 second. The next setting is which preset group to load from and save to. There's 2 different types. Again, this is also covered in the baseline, so if you've seen this, you're going to hear it again. You can have 10 local presets. You can't share them or do anything, but you can they are there local for this chart. If you select global, then you can share these presets with other charts in MT4. And I'll give you I'll show you how that's done. Okay, here I have 2 charts. They're set up similarly. This is the baseline indicator. This is the indicator that we're interested in, these 2. As you can see, there's a G here. That means they're in global mode. I have 3 presets. Notice I'll set them both to 1. They're the same preset. Go to 2. Same preset. 3. Same preset. So that's what you can do in global mode. If you update this preset 3, let's say I wanted to do this, I saved it. See, now it's 3162. I go here, hit it again, it's updated. So if you change one, you change them all. I mean, change it for that preset. That, again, that's just for the global mode. Okay, back to the chart. The next setting is where are you going to get the preset from? You can use the dialog box here, and it will just, every time you load it, it will load these settings. Or you can select any one of the 10 presets so that when you load MT4, it will load that preset. And this is where you can change that. This next setting is you can smooth the price information before it gets to these MACD moving averages, and you can set the period and the type. This is a applied price from the Forex Station. You can find it at forexstation.com. The next setting is the MACD tandem mode ratio setting, and I'll give you an example in a second, but these, you can turn them off, you can have it off, but or you can have it a 1 to 1.5 or any of these ratios, and that's the ratio between the fast MACD moving average to the slow MACD moving average. Like if you had it 1 to 2 and the fast MACD moving average was set to 10, the slow MACD moving average would be set to 20. So I can show you that. This is the tandem ratio mode buttons. The tandem ratio mode is based on the fast MACD moving average period. That period will control the slow tandem ratio mode period, as well as the no trade zone tandem mode period. Okay, right at the moment we're using this, it's at 14. I'm going to move this up a little bit to 20. So the fast is at 20, slow is at 40. And then if I change this ratio, which you can see here, it's changing. And then if I go up here and change this, they change. Also notice that the no trade zone moving average period changes as well. And it uses a slightly different setting. It uses this one down here. It will shorten the length or lengthen it, or the MACD, basically the slow has to be larger than the fast. Otherwise it inverts or shows 0. But anyway, as I change the moving average, it changes all three of them. And the same, same down here with the no trade zone, they're all changed. And you can change this ratio, but these are all the same. If you click this button, for example, right there on the fast slow, I'm changing the fast one, which is also tied to the no trade zone one. So I can change these independently. These can be different. If I select this one down here for the no trade zone, I can change this one independently, or I can change that one. So you can have a wide variety. It gets pretty wild. And see, these lines, these no trade zone lines are kind of low. You may want to copy these settings, put them in the dialog box, and use the dialog box to just type in as opposed to, wearing your mouse out, clicking this thing, trying to get these up to where they need to be. It's just that this will generate some pretty wild settings and on both sides. So, on the fast MACD, slow MACD, and then all the no trade zone level settings. So that's the tandem ratio mode. Okay, the next is the basic fast MACD parameters. Again, there are a number of moving averages you can choose from, and this is where you can select that. Type in the period. Some of the periods, like this ADX VMA, that's its periods controlled here. These are just parameters for the various indicators. And then it's just repeated down here for the slow parameters. The next setting, these are the no trade zone parameters. You can enable it. I guess I should show you this other thing. What you can do is you can turn the up, just so if you're just interested at seeing the down information, you can turn the down information off and you can just see the no trade zone levels. You can turn the static level off, or you can turn that off and turn the whole thing off. Anyway, that's one thing. We're down. Okay, and I showed you the enable. You can turn it on and off. Okay, the next setting is the no trade zone parameters. The smoothing moving average is only applied to the ATR versions here. There are 8 modes that the no trade zone can use, 4 of which are Bollinger Bands, and the other 4 are based on the ATR. But 2 of these are 2-band ATRs, which is what I call a directional ATR. That's what I added, one of the things, which is a little different. And on these 2-band ATR, I have this. It will use the close to close, or the high minus low, or if it's this high-low plus, if the current close is greater than the previous close, then it uses the previous low minus the current high. And then if the current close is less than the previous close, it uses the previous high minus the current low. And that's how it generates these values. And then it runs those through this moving average right here, whichever one you want to select at this period. That, again, that's only for it's actually for all these ATRs. It runs it through this moving average, but the directional ATR is only applied to the 2-band ones. That's this thing here. So, and then the Bollinger Bands that's just it. That's just what they are, is they're just the normal Bollinger Bands put on the chart. And on the two bands, which there are right here, there's these two bands, Bollinger Bands. You can flip the bands, which I'll show you this stuff. This is another thing that it has. It has an inverse, where it basically takes a static level ATR and, for example, the ATR single band mode, which is probably the easiest one, it has a static ATR level that is constant throughout. That level is set here, the period is set here, and the multiplier is set for each of the various modes. They're set down here. Here I set up an example. Right now, let's go back. This is the normal ATR. This is just a random, I just put these on here. This is a single mode or one band ATR, and this is what it does. This is what it looks like. And then if I switch here to this inverse mode, I had to, so you notice these numbers are larger. And I'll just flip back and you can look like here, for example. Do you see what I was talking about? It moves it in the opposite direction. So when price isn't going anywhere, the static level ATR keeps it above the, so that you're not getting any trigger levels. And then as the ATR gets larger, it pushes it down so that it will trigger these levels. So that's what I mean by the inverse. And some of these levels they can change. You can get them kind of high. Again, you might want to, once you find something that you think works, copy it into the dialog box and change the levels there instead of clicking. For example, like here, see this right now is moving this level up, but you're seeing these things move down because that's just the way the indicator is. And then this takes a little bit more. This is like for example, if I went to the non-inverse one, this will just move this line up in the up direction. See? So it's kind of opposite of what you would think, but if you mess with it, you'll hopefully get the idea of what it actually does. The higher you get this thing, and then you crank this up, you keep turning it, it's, you're going to have to click on it a bunch, but you will notice that these certain ones, they become deeper, that they'll be flat and then they'll become a little deeper. And you can get some pretty extreme settings that will not have any trigger levels except for the ones that really move, that to get you in, for example, a trade. This is just one of the things you can play with. But I found a lot of settings. There's a lot of bad settings. Believe me, there's a lot of settings that don't work at all. But there's quite a few that work, really well. Well, I guess we'll go back to these bands. This is where this button here controls the various band settings, the no trade zone. Like here is the Bollinger Band, single band. And as you can see, there's no moving average applied to this. It still has the ratio button, still works. As you can see, it's changing it here. So, and that's what this this line is basically a single Bollinger Band. You can crank this up, do the same thing. And then if you go to the next one, it's the same Bollinger Band thing with that inverse thing that I just described in the ATR. This one has it as well. So there's a single band, and then there's our two band ATR, which they're just split between, and you have the same thing there, and then you have the invert. But on this one here, you remember that flip switch? This is the flip switch. This is what I'm talking about. It does it on the two band Bollinger Band ones, and then as well as the two band ATR ones. It flips them. And you'll find some interesting settings by just flipping it. You just have to kind of experiment with it. And like I say, sometimes it generates settings that, like the histogram up and down, these will be way up here and the levels will be way down here, and you're just going to have to crank it up, to get it, because some of these moving average combinations they just produce some wild results. So when you're in Bollinger Band mode, you'll notice that here's ATR mode where you're using the moving average. You see these? You can change the moving average, you can change the period and stuff, especially if you have this selected. And you can also turn these off. I guess I should have said that as well. And you can make this thing, you can turn the tandem ratio mode. You just keep clicking and you can get them to turn off. And then you can just change these to whatever you want. If you go from here, when you change to the Bollinger Bands, since this doesn't use a moving average, it's just using Bollinger Bands. There's no moving average. And then this is a single band. Right now it's set at 60. This controls that Bollinger Band period. And then this button here, what it does is there's actually, even though this is a single band, there's two bands in there that have two different periods, which this is way up there because of the tandem ratio mode. Anyway, there's actually two bands, they're summed together and they create one line, but there's actually two Bollinger Bands creating the one line. You just get some different effects. That's what that button does. As you see, there's two values there, but there's one line. Again, there's also two bands where you have two separate bands as well. And you can have a single value. You press that. There's now four. There's two for each band. So these values here, like this 19, one is 19, it's summed together with the one that's 70 for both the up and down versions. So that's what that button does, and that's what those numbers mean. I would leave this static level off until you get these figured out. And then once you get the moving averages and periods and stuff figured out, then add this and then raise it up to block out all that noise. This is really like a squelch on a radio, CB, whatever. It's kind of like that. You can that's what that does, is it gets rid of that low level noise. So, and then I think I did show you the presets, but in order to save them, it's very simple. You click the button and say, I wanted to save it there. It's now saved in that preset. You'll notice that the presets are they're a little brighter in color. If that means that there is data in that preset. If you click it and then you change your mind, like you don't want to save it, you can do that. This here is the original WAE that I've been using for quite a while. It needs a little work. I basically was using all normalized values, and which gave good results. That's the way to do it, I think. But the adaptive normalization algorithm I need to work on. So this one, I'm actually was more thrilled with what this one was capable of doing, because I designed this other indicator over here, which is directional ATR, which is very close to being completed. And I like the way that it's set up, so I thought I would just transfer this stuff into here. And that's what this one is. This one still is very good and very valid, and I will finish it and put it up. But I just thought I would show you this one here is for here. This is for here. And then this is the directional ATR. I think with that, I think that's all we have for this one. So have fun.